your seats, settle down. We're about to start with our technical session 2, which is all about EU support to climate smart and inclusive urbanization in India. Also the moderator, Mr. Laurent Le-Denois, Team Leader, Corporation Section Delegation of the European Union to India. Well, I would like to give a brief introduction, ladies and gentlemen, about him. I would also like to invite our speakers so that they can just join the dais. Dr. Ishe Namgyal, President, Le Municipal Corporation. Please join Municipal Corporation. Graduated from Mumbai University and joined IAS in 2013. Worked as Deputy Development Commissioner and responsible for implementation of rural development programs. As District Collector and District Magistrate in managing land and revenue administration, law and order, implementation of government schemes. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a huge round of applause for Mr. Ranjan. Now let's have our speaker number 3, Mr. Naim Keruwala. He is an urban management professional with over 14 years of diversified sector experience. He currently leads the AIILSG program as a program director at the National Institute of Urban Affairs. The program is an urban innovation sandbox supporting the development of innovative and sustainable urban infrastructure projects with an outlay of 150 million pounds across 20 cities in India. He is also heading the design and development of the second phase of the program with a proposed outlay of Euro 400 million. Naim is a senior fellow at Symbiosis Center for Urban Studies. He has taught postgraduate students at Symbiosis School of Economics, Pune for 8 years, a visiting professional for urban economic development. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Mr. Naim. Also, now I would like to call our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Anshuman, Associate Director, Water Resources Division, the Energy and Resources Institute. Mr. Anshuman has been working in the field of water sector since last 25 years. His key qualification includes M.Tech in Energy Environmental Management from Indian Institute of Technology, IIT, Delhi. His expertise in the water sector lies in the areas related to integrated water resource management, water use efficiency, water quality and quantity assessments, where he has carried out several comprehensive research studies in the context of source issues, water scarcity, pollution, use efficiency, etc. Sectors: irrigation, domestic and industrial, stakeholders, central state governments and local communities. His focus work areas includes integrated water resource management, water use efficiency, urban water supply and demand management studies, water audits, water conservation, watershed management, climate change and water security, provision of drinking water, resource evaluation and pollution load assessment, adequacy and efficiency studies of sewage and effluent treatment plants, training and capacity building in water environmental management, regulatory legislations, environmental impact assessment studies, etc. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Anshuman. Our next speaker, Mr. Jay Kumar Gaurav, is a Senior Advisor Climate Change and Circular Economy in JIS India. He is also Project Manager of the Waste Solutions for a Circular Economy in India project with MoFCC as Nodal Ministry and MOA as Implementation Partner Ministry. Prior to GIZ, he has worked with Adelphi, International Development Enterprises India, United Nations Development Program UNDP, and Syndicatum Carbon Capital on implementation of climate change mitigation projects. He holds a Master's in Climate Change and Development from the Institute of Development Studies, University of Sussex, UK, for which he was awarded the Commonwealth Scholarship. I'll be presenting about what is waste solution for circular economy in India project activities in the climate smart inclusive urbanization session. Let's give it up for Jay Kumar Gaurav. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with this, we move forward to call our next speaker, Mr. Pankaj Sinha, Senior Investment Officer, International Financial Corporation. Overall, 15 years of experience in structuring and implementing PPP transactions across sectors in India and other countries such as Bangladesh and Bhutan. He has successfully closed PPP transactions across sectors such as power, solar, health, urban, and water. And now, I would like to hand over to Ajay. Over to you, sir. Well, an important announcement, ladies and gentlemen. अगर आप सभी को ट्रांसलेशन चाहिए हिंदी में तो प्लीज़ आप सब लोग अपने हेडफोन्स उठा सकते हैं registration desk. Please collect your headphones from the registration desk in order to get the translation in Hindi. Thank you. Or you can also raise your hand alternatively. Our team member will bring the headphone and hand over it to you. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I hope you're still awake. We are 45 minutes late. We have one of our speakers who needs to leave in about 45 minutes. So my colleague Shuvik here has prepared for me a nice speech, but I don't think I really have time to have this nice speech. I think the people on the dais here, we are going to listen to them, and they represent what I could say. Basically, we are engaging or have engaged with them from the EU, and that's been, let's say, through them that let's say, EU support has been possible. And just two things I would say. I mean, why we're here, because we have global problems and we have local problems, and we are trying to find local solutions, and these local solutions will contribute to fix the global problems. So for me, while I'm going to, I have been given also a set of questions, but I don't know if I will have time to ask them questions because we are very much behind schedule. If ever we have time, either I will ask those questions or I may get more questions coming from what they are going to say now. I'll be very attentive to what they say. I'm interested to hear in which way they contribute to fixing local problems about inclusive and resilient cities. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Ishe Namgail, the president of the Leh Municipal Corporation, if you'd like to share a few words. So you have 5 to maximum 7 minutes, if you can.
Just finish less than that.
No, but still deliver some of your key messages. That's important. It's not, we shouldn't rush so much that we have nothing to say. So please do say what you want to say.
Distinguished personality on the dais and all the distinguished delegates coming from different places, both nationally, internationally. Good afternoon to everyone. I am coming from a region that is a very cold desert area. So this morning, to give a just brief introduction of my region, this morning when I left for the airport at 8, the bucket with water which was lying outside my house had a thin layer of, freezing. So it is still the sub-zero temperature in winter. So that is and it is trans-Himalayan located. So we cannot compare Ladakh region with any part of the country, except for some part of Himachal Pradesh. Having said that, Leh is a very small town. It's a population of 40,000, 50,000, but we receive a huge number of tourists, more than about 400,000 plus in a year. And there is a huge presence of the Indian Army and paramilitary forces, then migrant laborers. So all that put together, there is tremendous pressure on the limited resources in particularly the town Leh. Particularly the stress is on water, because in Ladakh there are about in the region 300 plus villages, and almost 90% of the villages depend on the glacier-fed water for agriculture. And now, because of the global warming and other factors, the glaciers are fast receding. So water is going to be a huge concern in the coming days. So water management is one of the very key issues in that area. And we sitting there up there in the Himalayas can't do much, because the global effect is there on the climate change. Coming to our topic with the EU-funded, International Urban Regional Cooperation, Leh signed an MOU with the 3 Greece cities of Trikala, Meteoria and Farkodana in 2016, and that was to end in 2021. But because in between we have the pandemic, so that MOU got extended, and the contract will be ending by the end of this year. So in this process, a delegate from Leh, we visited Greece, the 3 cities, and we learned about the best practices of that area, and then back home in Ladakh, then we thought about how to implement the practices that has been, practiced in Greece. We have been to in Greece to waste management plant, biogas plant, and so many other sanitation wise, water management centers. But when you really think very deeply, there are big challenges in our part of the country. Number one, in Greece, what we have learned is, there is the work culture, the very, number one, the population is less. Number two, they are responsible citizens. They just don't litter everything here and there. So that makes the municipal work quite easy, In our country, you have a huge population with diverse both social, economic, religion background, and therefore it is very challenging. But when we compare that to Leh, it is manageable because Leh is a very small town, and we have exceedingly done well in terms of management of this waste in Ladakh. The one thing we are now doing is we have already distributed, we collect waste, separated waste, segregated waste, dry and wet. We have distributed bins to every household, and then it goes to the processing plant. Similarly, the single-use plastic has been banned very long back before the Honorable Prime Minister, gave a deadline. We banned that much earlier. The other thing, the challenging for Ladakh is most of the things now come in packages, and that is a huge challenge, And we don't have processing plant as such in the area. Therefore, what we do is we segregate the waste into different, of course, the wet part we convert it into manure. The other things we segregate into different categories, and then we have entered with a private company, signed an MU. So he leaves that material, gives the municipality some amount, certain prices for each item, and then he lifts that and takes back to Jammu or other processing area. That is how the system works there. And regarding water, we have we work with very closely with the private NGO called the Ladakh Development Ecological Group. So we prepared a vision document for Leh 2030, and that has been adopted by the Hill Council there. In our place, the structure of the administration is quite different from other areas. Earlier, we were a part of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, we know. Now, it has become a UT, Union Territory, since August 19. Now, the structure is, we have the UT administration. Under that, we have the Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Council. This is an elected body. Then you have the municipal, municipality. Then you have the PRIs, Panchayati Raj system. So the Hill Council, in a way, does the job of an assembly in a very small scale, limited scale, with limited powers. So that is how it is. Therefore, the vision document 2030 been adopted by the Hill Council, and their recommendation and deadlines as per the recommendation, the deadlines are there, and we are into implementing that. So that is one aspect. The other aspect, in Greece, because the technology is there in the West, whereas that technology, smart technology, what we call, that is, those are things which you have to learn and adopt in place like my place, because it is quite remote. Although it is, if you could travel by the air, it is just an hour from Delhi. But since it is trans-Himalayan located, high altitude, the average altitude is 3,500 meters. The town itself is 3,500 plus meters. So anybody visiting Ladakh, for the first 24 hours has to acclimatize. So that is the kind of situation there. And the region is vast. It is about 70,000-80,000 square kilometer, which is in our part of the, leaving apart other Baltistan and other which are in POK and Aksai Chin, which are in now a part of China. So it is a huge area, but mountainous. The population is just 300,000 plus. You can just imagine the region, the whole region, the population is 300,000 plus. But we received 400,000 plus tourists and another 1 lakh, migrant workers. Then there is a huge presence of the army. So all this makes, lay a very challenging place, because there is tremendous pressure on the resources. That is it. And then these are the challenges there. And one of the things, we all talk about now how to mitigate. There is a global warming, there is air pollution, there is water shortage, all these things. If you go very deeply, what I personally feel is that in our, in our quiz for generating wealth, generating GDP, we exploit Mother Nature so much, and now there is air pollution, there is water pollution and everything. Now whatever we have, wealth we have generated, we are reinvesting how to correct that. Therefore, I think one of the things which personally I think is simple living, live simply, that is the mantra. I'm a Buddhist, so there is something called Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist socialism. So that Buddhist socialism is applicable now, because there is no end to your greed, So therefore, I think if you all live simply, suppose for instance, when you go to a shopping mall, you are attracted to buy things. You have the money, you are attracted, you buy, but you never think whether you really like, you want that for, So I think we should, fundamentally, we should live with the nature. And the rest of the thing now that we will mitigation and all these things are the secondary issues. So not taking much time, thank you, the All India Institute for this, the organizer, All India Institute for Local Self-Government, for inviting me here, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, President. So very interesting. I think we were in Ladakh, we were far from the mega cities that we've been hearing also before. So it's a very different environment, but still very much affected by global climate change for sure. So now I would like to ask Mr. Shashi Ranjan, IAS Municipal Commissioner Ranchi, to come. And he has a presentation, so I think the team is, there's a presentation to come.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Shashi Ranjan, Municipal Commissioner, Ranchi Municipal Corporation. Please. Yeah. This is the presentation about European Union International Urban and Regional Cooperation and City-to-City Cooperation for Sustainable Urbanization. So, International Urban and Regional Cooperation Program supports the decentralized sustainable urban development, and with the support of AIILSG, Ranchi has cooperation with the Reggio Emilia in Italy, and with their cooperation, with their knowledge sharing and knowledge transfer, we are working on non-motorized vehicle transportation system in Ranchi. So first of all, I will tell you about the Ranchi city. This Ranchi is the capital of newly formed Jharkhand state. You all must be knowing that it's only 22 years old capital, and this city is surrounded by hills and lakes and waterfalls, and have a very pleasant weather there. And also, Ranchi is selected by the Government of India as a smart city for the smart city project, and won the prestigious award in the year 2021. This is some statistics about the Ranchi, and we have 53 wards, 174.91 square kilometer of area, and around 15 lakh, that means 1.5 million population, that is estimated as on 2020. So what are we good at? So RMC has performed tremendously well in areas of tax revenue collection. So in last 10 years, it has increased from 5 crore to more than 60 crore, and it's still increasing at the rate of more than 10%. And with the association with the AIILSG, Municipal Corporation intends to deliver the best services to ease the life of citizen of Ranchi, and it has given the opportunity to identify the best practices of municipal domain across the globe. And also, AIILSG supports the development of decentralized cooperation in sustainable urban development and innovation between the European cities. So, under this program, the cities of Ranchi and Reggio Emilia have agreed to build relationship and promote concrete cooperation for the year 2021 to 23. Both cities have agreed to share expertise in promotion of non-motorized vehicle transport system. This is very important because of this climate resilient systems are coming out. So this going back to the bicycles and the use of non-motorized vehicle system is very important for the future. So it all started in year 2021, and we had several meetings and then exchange visits from Ranchi to Reggio Emilia in June 2022. Municipal Commissioner from Ranchi and CEO Smart City, both they have visited Reggio Emilia, and they got to know about the whole non-motorized vehicle system, that is bicycle tracks and the planning and everything. And from there also the team came just 2 days back. They have visited Ranchi, and we saw our the future projects and gone around the cities, and we have made a plan, and some suggestion and some inputs we are getting from Reggio Emilia team also. So review of best practices and preparation of urban cooperation action plan on safe bicycle route concept. So Ranchi is having some planning on this bicycle routes. So focus area in this program will be promote the establishment of long-term collaboration approach and mutual exchange to know-how. This knowledge transfer and sharing is very important, and develop an urban cooperation action plan on urban mobility. In thematic events, we participate and support development of action plans, pilot projects and concepts. Ensure the collaboration of city experts, personnel commit. So this is basically what they have, what they are working on it, and how we are going to implement in our city. Basically, this is the core concept of all this organization, and IURC is facilitating all this for the both cities. So what we want to achieve is design and development of dedicated and secure bicycle route in the Ranchi city to promote individual and sharing bicycle ride for day-to-day activity, and retrospective analysis of existing public transport and making it accessible for all, covering all entire cities, and develop culture for sharing of ride inside the city. So before we planned something, then we had a survey in our city, and in that survey we came to know that still 36% are 36% of our citizens commute by foot, by walk, and 28% by shared auto. So nowadays in smaller cities, these autos, and they are having some kind of problem with all the city, because due to this lot of traffic congestions are coming out. And also this bus has only 5%, because Ranchi doesn't have any public transport system. We have very few buses. And also we have asked some question on the cycles, how they want to perceive this bicycle ride. So after this survey, we found some challenges that need to be addressed. So this is the effect of traffic congestion, poor road network, develop a culture of sharing of ride inside the city. Now this auto sharing is going on, but we want to put bicycles so that the people use less autos and they commute on the through the bicycles. So encroachment issues are there, under-resourced road networks. So vehicles have increased 16 times more than the road network has increased. So what are we doing right now? So Ranchi is selected as a smart city. So for smart city, in smart city development of integral command and control center, already it's functioning. And this intelligent traffic management system is working on. A surveillance system is there. We have cameras, CCTV cameras in all around the city. Variable messaging, this kiosk is there, LED screens are there at junction point. PA system is there. If from the control and command center, if some important message needs to be broadcasted all around the city, this can be done from the command and control center. And there is emergency box at all the traffic junction. So in case of any emergency or disaster, we can broadcast the message. So already Ranchi has some kind of public bicycle sharing system. Already in 2019, it has been started with 600 cycles, and in second phase, the work in progress, and 60 stations and more than 600 bicycles will be kept for this. And so this is rented to the citizen. This is basically app-based system, and the first 30 minutes is free, and just you have to download the app and register on it, and just you go near the bicycle, just scan the QR code, and that bicycle will get unlocked, and you can ride first 30 minutes for free. Then it is chargeable, but it's very few. So if you'll see from 2019, it's more than 1 lakh people have used it, and average distance is 3 kilometers, and duration of ride is approximate 14 minutes. So there are many flexibilities have been provided, no burden of ownership, one-way trip. So this is slowly picking up in city, and once we expand and once we incorporate a new bicycle tracks, and that's why we are being engaged with the Reggio Emilia, because the Reggio Emilia has a very robust system of bicycle rides. So these are some progress which are under progress, and hopefully next 1 year we'll able to cover more than 20 kilometers of bicycle tracks inside the city. And what Reggio Emilia is doing, like they have earmarked the pedestrian areas and limited traffic zones. So bicycle routes are very extensively carved out in whole traffic management system. Bicycle sharing system is there, and increased salary to bike to work. Because 2 days back they have said that how they have done in Reggio Emilia, and we quite like that they have used some kind of carrot and stick policy. So it is very hard to get someone out from their fancy cars and put them and give them one bicycle and tell them that you ride on bicycle. So this has to be enforced. Some enforcement is required, some hard decision is required for this. So just yesterday only we had team from Reggio Emilia, and I would like to thank Honorable Deputy Mayor from the Reggio Emilia and Project Director. They are still here, and also I would like to thank Mr. Karanamos from AIILSG also, because of their support only, and with the cooperation of team from the Reggio Emilia, we'll able to do what we want to do, and we'll look forward to more cooperation and more support from the AIILSG and the Reggio Emilia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we have moved from the slow living and low energy consumption to cycling and round so a little bit faster, but still quite.
Thank you very much. Can you put the presentation up, please? So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Naeem from NIUA, National Institute of Urban Affairs, and I lead a program called Cities. It's called City Investments to Innovate, Integrate, and Sustain. And the program, I think, in terms of project design, it's not working. It's not working. In terms of project design, I think it's one of the very few that I can quote, which really focuses on impact at, which in terms of impact really focuses at all three federal levels. When we are looking at local action, we are also looking at state action, and we are also looking at national level interventions, and how at each level, while the program becomes the anchor, the end goal is actually capitalization of that knowledge for further learning. So the program is was launched by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs in 2018, and it is financed through a €100 million loan from the French Development Agency, AFD, and a €6 million technical assistance grant from the European Union, which actually makes it possible to really capitalize on the learnings and also disseminate it to almost all the urban local bodies in the country, and also provide a very important part of technical assistance for developing those infrastructure projects. In terms of if you look at the principles, there are four major values or principles of the cities program. We have relevance and feasibility, excellence and sustainable urban development, innovation and integration, and participatory approaches. So it was a challenge process. And there are three components to this process. Component one is local action. So in 2018, Government of India launched a competition amongst the 100 smart cities, saying that, okay, you have the smart cities program going on, we have all the projects going on, but can we create a small niche out of it wherein we say, we'll give you additional funds over and above your smart city funds to do something innovative. And that's where EU and AFD came into the picture, and the program was designed and launched. We received 67 project proposals, and it was highly competitive. And out of the 67, 27 were shortlisted and called for an interview. So the smart city CEO and municipal commissioners were required to come down to Delhi. There was a 10-member jury, and they were supposed to defend why should their city get this grant. And this grant was not limited to financial, but also technical assistance. And technical assistance again was at 3 levels. We had a global mentor that would be assigned to each city, and these are like very well-known people, like someone who has designed Abu Dhabi Metro, or someone who has actually written the NACTO street design guidelines, to someone who was heading the 100 Resilient Cities program. So really global experts with like a lot of knowledge and experience. So that's the kind of expertise that the city will get, and quite a substantial, because they'll be spending 15 days every quarter in that city. So that is one thing that we were offering the cities. Second was a domestic expert, that apart from an international mentor, you'll also have a domestic expert working with you almost again 15 days in every quarter to help you in designing your program. And then we had a pool of transversal experts. So we onboarded through a competitive bidding process 3 agencies, Ernst & Young, AECOM and TERI. And all these cities also will have access to these agencies on-demand based service. They can actually go and get their whatever work is required to be done, they can get it done. So there is a financial assistance and there is technical assistance, and then is also they will be able to get all the support from NIUA in other areas as well. So out of those 27, only 12 were selected, and on an average each project size is roughly around 100 crores. So that's how we have roughly around 1200 crores worth of projects that is being implemented right now, which is, I would say, on an average around 150 million euros. So that is at local action. Then we said we'll also choose one state and put resources in that state to really build capacities of all urban local bodies across that state. And then we'll have at the national level, we will basically do capitalization, we will do monitoring and evaluation, and we'll do cities management platform, basically an tech-enabled dashboard for project management. So this is what we have done. So like I just talked about, the challenge process, the city level action, these are the 4 thematic areas under which the projects have been selected. We have sustainable mobility, social and organizational innovation in low income settlements, public open spaces, urban e-governance and ICT. And these are the 12 projects all across the country that were selected. We have Amritsar, Dehradun, Surat, Ujjain, Hubli, Dharwad, Agartala, Bhubaneswar, Kochi, Chennai, Puducherry, Visakhapatnam, Amravati and Bhubaneswar. This is the technical assistance that I was talking about. So we have global mentors such as Mr. Alfred Preeter, Amit Brothi, Chris Blash, Michael King, Prasanna Desai, Pratap Kumar, and domestic experts such as Gurmeet, Pranjali, Sita, Shahina, Swati, Vidya. Again, very well-known experts in the sector. And this is the a very important thing that we launched as part of the cities program was a maturation phase. As you would understand, in most infrastructure projects, as soon as the project is prepared, the first thing we start doing is saying, let's start preparing the DPR, the detailed project report, and then you go out for tendering. We said, no, before even you get to the DPR stage, there are 24 steps that you need to follow to de-risk the project and also ensure sustainability of the project. And when you say sustainability, it's also financial and environmental sustainability. So all the 12 projects mandatorily were required to go through an environmental and social impact assessment. They were required to develop a social environment management plan, and they were required to develop monitoring and evaluation framework, the project logical frameworks, and all this work, we also gave them a dedicated grant to actually go through the maturation phase. And we saw that the kind of the project ideas that came in, they got completely transformed when they went through the maturation phase. And during the maturation phase, the mentors and experts were actually hand-holding the cities almost on a daily basis. So there was also a lot of learning that the cities could, replicate in other projects. For example, in Chennai, we are developing 28 smart schools. In Ujjain, we are developing the Mahakal Lok corridor, the first phase of which some part of it was developed under the cities program, which was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister. In Hubli Dharwad, we are developing the Unkal Nala corridor, a green mobility corridor. In Agartala, we are redeveloping the Howrah riverfront on the entire stretch of the river. In Amravati, we are developing 24 schools and 23 Anganwadi centers in the villages which were not part of the erstwhile master plan. In Kochi, we are developing a e-health solution across 32 hospitals in the city. In Surat, we are developing a biodiversity park. It's one of the largest biodiversity parks that will be developed with almost 500,000 trees that will be planted across 87 hectares of land through Miyawaki technique. The pilot project was inaugurated by the Environment Minister of France last year. In Visakhapatnam, we are also developing 40 new smart schools. In Amritsar, we are replacing 7,000 diesel autos with electric autos. And in Bhubaneswar, again, we are developing 21 playgrounds, around 5.8 kilometers of natural rejuvenation, and 8 new parks. And in Dehradun, it's a smart schools, smart street project where we are developing safe streets through which students can actually reach their schools more safely. And in Puducherry, it's a housing project. We are developing 1,400 new housing units and also developing community assets. So in terms of impact of the program, if you see, we will have more than 7,000 new public and intermediate public transport vehicles, around 85 kilometers of NMT infrastructure will be developed, almost 7,000 hectares of green open space will be developed, more than 150 hectares of new public space, around 1,400 new housing units, 340 educational institutes, almost 45,000 students will benefit from this, and around 31 new health facilities. I won't get into this part, but yeah, I think just some of the pictures in terms of when the Honorable Prime Minister launched the Mahakal Lok Corridor. The Honorable Prime Minister also laid the foundation stone of the project in Dehradun as well as in Surat. The Parliamentary Affairs Minister recently inaugurated the Hubli corridor in the Green Mobility Corridor in Hubli. The Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu laying the foundation stone of the schools, and same in Puducherry and Agartala. So that's very quickly about what we are doing in component 1. And very quickly, component 2, we are working with Government of Odisha, where we have so far conducted 16 training programs and developed a detailed toolkit on water body mapping. And right now we are working with Odisha State Housing Board on developing an entire procurement ecosystem for the state. And there's a lot more, but you can please visit our website. And we recently actually took municipal commissioners and CEOs of 6 cities to France for an exposure visit. So it was done through the Sciences Po Urban School in Paris and Efficacy. And we also launched the Cities of Tomorrow photography competition and exhibition, which was done at India Habitat Center. The Honorable Ambassador of the EU delegation to India and Bhutan, he was the chief guest, and this was a week-long photography exhibition that we launched. So the photographers from these 12 cities submitted more than 500 photos, and around 30 were selected for the exhibition. And just last week, we also launched the India's first Urban Climate Film Festival, which was launched by Mr. Amitabh Kant. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Naeem. I think quite impressive work, but I must say you have, let's say, the resources that you are provided are bigger than the ones for Ranchi or Leh, so I think you can do more work, but you do very interesting work. I've visited Kochi and Chennai, so I relate to the work. So thank you very much, Naeem. And I know you will have to leave us soon, but thank you. I would like now to give the floor to Dr. Anshuman, Associate Director at TERI.
We would like to felicitate Mr.
Yeah.
This is AIILSG.
Just time. Yeah. Yeah, as Naeem is going to leave, we just present him with
All right, ladies and gentlemen, since Mr. Naim Keruwala is just running a little late and he will be leaving the session now, so we'll request Anusha Fatima, Head of Business Development, to please come forward and felicitate Mr. Keruwala. Ladies and gentlemen, with this I'll request everybody to please put your hands together for Mr. Keruwala. Thank you so much. I would like to hand over it to our moderator, our chairperson, to continue the session.
Thank you, Chair, and the organizers for this opportunity to discuss about the project. I've been asked to, discuss about the project Pavitra Ganga, which we are doing, in 2 locations in India. It's a project where we have a consortium of, various partners across from Europe and India. This is a project which is basically funded by the EU and the Government of India, Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology. What I'm going to talk about is about the wastewater management by and large. And of course, there's a kind of range of technologies that we have been implementing in this particular project. But if you take a look at where we are in our country, you'll see that the kind of wastewater generated from across the cities, class 1 and class 2 cities, and many of the representatives are here from the cities, you'll find that a significant proportion is basically going to the water bodies, either partially treated or totally untreated. And if you look into the India-wide scenario, it's almost around 27% of what we are generating being actually treated based on the actual treatment capacity. Now this leads to the pollution and various associated challenges, impacts of climate change aggravating all of these. All the kinds of reports that we have today in our country tells us that while there are improvements with the programs that are going on, but we still have a long way to go. What we are actually also kind of looking at is how to basically take forward this particular problem as a challenge, not as a challenge, but as a solution. Now, I like to call this wastewater as a resource rather than a waste, water. And in that sense, we need to change the narrative of how we are actually, dealing with wastewater. Is by and large what I want to, kind of share with you all. This also assists in the impact of climate change mitigation, because all the GHGs emission that happens in the process of the treatment, I think this actually, if you're improving the, technologies and if you're improving the wastewater kind of treatment, it actually helps in that. So this particular project, what we have actually looked into is 3 verticals of, basically interventions. One is a bouquet of technologies, and might I say, the technology that we are proposing, or let's say we are implementing in this project, is basically on the premise of having lower impact, lower energy, and lower cost kind of, footprint. And that's something that we are proposing in this particular, intervention, supported by the stakeholder engagement at all the levels, which is under the water governance, and smart monitoring, which is basically about monitoring what is the kind of impact and what is the kind of situation around what we are dealing with. So if we are working in, I'll skip this, we are working in 2 locations in India. One is as pilot, one is in New Delhi, Barapula Drain. Some of you who are here and would want to visit this particular location, please contact me. I'll be more than happy to demonstrate and showcase to you what we are doing there and what is the kind of intervention impact that is happening. And the other is in Kanpur, Jajmo, where we have this tanneries and other domestic sewage mixed up together, and the challenge basically of having the wastewater managed. Where we are as well implementing a range of technology. Now what I want to share with you, and therefore also it's a way in a message to what the cities can actually look forward to us in the current context about how to treat wastewater and how to deal with wastewater, is about those options and solutions which are available as of now. And that's the thing that I would want to emphasize over here. So these are the range of technologies that we are actually implementing over there. So one of them is, for example, the bulk organic and nutrient removal. the cities actually deal with the, very high pollution load, which is a cocktail of not just the domestic sewages, but also the, untreated or partially treated, industrial sewages in many cases. For example, Kanpur is a classical example over here. So Andicos is a technology which actually combines the organic waste, with the municipal sewage to basically improve the loads. So it is basically a technology in which we are using IP membrane and as well as anaerobic digester. What it does is basically, concentrates the, organic matter, and, along with that, we add to that this, kitchen kind of, kitchen waste to improve the load, and then we digest it under the anaerobic conditions to basically make use of it. Three things basically. One is the treated wastewater is, of course, can be used, but in the process you can also generate energy which can be basically reused into your system to, kind of for all the operations that you need. So that's a very, innovative technology which is patented in the process of patenting, and we are already piloting this in Jajmo. And this actually reduces the energy requirement by around 50%, and as well as a low-cost kind of option that can be taken forward. There's another one which has come forward, as a very promising technology. It's called self-forming dynamic MBR, SFD MBR. This is again a kind of pseudo MBR of the sort, because what we are doing in this one is we are using a material which is having a slightly larger pore size than the traditional, ultrafiltration membrane, which are costlier actually. And what it does is basically it's a robust, resilient, and cost-effective technology which actually limits the pressure requirement. Therefore, it's suitable for kind of filtration with the gravity, and also reduces energy requirement. So this works with a very equilibrium, into the system, and it's a very effective thing. It's already, piloted, and it's already in the process of, working in Kanpur. Then we have structured adsorbents. These are basically, granular composites with high binding capacities and fast kinetics. What it does is that it actually has a high absorption capacity to the range of around 30 to 60 milligram per gram. And it's very effective in removing the chromium and phosphorus and other kind of, nutrients and problem, entities from the wastewater. Then many of you would have heard about the wetlands. What we are introducing here is a constructed wetland plus. So what it does is it's a vertical flow kind of system in which, along with the normal gravel and other system, we have activated carbons, granulated activated carbon, which is mixed along with a particular kind of bacteria, which has a very and of course the plants, Canna indica, for example, and all of this together in a vertical flow creates a very good filtration system. And what we are seeing is around 70 to 80% of heavy metal removal, including pharmaceutical products removal to the range of around 65 to 80%. For example, diclofenac and ibuprofen removal to the range of around 65 to 80%. Likewise, ozonation, photoactivated sludge. These are the kind of technology. Photoactivated sludge, for example, is a more let's say concentrated biomass of kind of bacteria and the algae, which creates a high biomass algae concentration, which actually creates a much more volumetric removal of the wastewater pollutants in the wastewater by making use of the algal oxidation process. So that's a very useful. This is there in Delhi. If somebody is wanting to visit, we can show it to them. Then we have, of course, clean blocks, which is a biofilm carrier nutrient removal kind of system. So all of these are kind of technologies which are being used here, and all of them, like I said, are basically low energy, low cost sort of options which are there, which can be used by any city, any municipal corporation across the country or other parts of the world. Then we, of course, are monitoring simultaneously with low-cost mobile sensors and stationary sensors. The idea is to see what kind of situation the background information is about the pollutants, and also what are the hotspots that one needs to focus on, and also how is our systems performing on ground. We also used modeling techniques to understand the background information of what is the kind of situation of water and wastewater kind of management in these two locations, to combine the information to supplement these recommendations of not only just the technologies, but also what kind of policy interventions are required, as well as what is required to promote this reuse of these treated wastewater with the local community and the farming community. So I'll skip the kind of the results or the findings, because that's very detailed and complex kind of detailing. But I would want to stop to this particular part, that there's enough information which is available on the website, as you can see at the right top, in which the details of a lot of these interventions, as well as what can be done together, and also any suggestions, if anybody has, and that's most welcome, and we can actually integrate into part our exercise. In fact, we have had this, project working with very closely with the Ministry of Water Resources and other stakeholders on the ground in cities, and the farming community together, with the inputs from them, and also seeking what are their priorities to assist them. We actually launched a policy brief on basically mainstreaming of wastewater recycle, reuse, and resources recovery in our country, and what are those interventions and learnings we can have between Europe and India that can be basically customized for a particular location and taken forward. So more than happy to share. This is available online as well. In fact, this policy brief was launched by Honorable Minister Shri Shekhawat ji. And of course, in various other forum, we have been sharing the findings of this project as well as this technology. Right, I'll stop here. If there are any questions, we can take it later. But thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Anshunam. I think you bring a different element to the other presentation with the angle of technology. And really, I think the issues here of the cost of the technology itself, the cost of the maintenance, and I would say that would be the traditional issues we would have always been concerned. I think today we are also concerned with the energy consumption. I mean, is it going to consume energy, and what type of energy, and the cost of that energy consumption. So that's very important. And then about the environmental pollution. So many angles to that. So I guess for lay would have to decide what kind of technology can we afford and what kind of technology we cannot afford. So, and do we have the people to maintain that technology? So a lot of exchange. I think it's important to have other cities who share similar context. So that to see is it adapted to my context and my resources. But thank you very much for the presentation. Now I would like to call Jai Kumar Gaurav, Senior Advisor, Climate Change and Circular Economy at GIZ.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jai Kumar Gaurav. I am Senior Advisor, Climate Change and Circular Economy in GIZ India. GIZ is German Development Agency, and we are implementing this project called Waste Solutions for a Circular Economy in India. It is a project funded by NAMA facility, which is a multi-donor fund, and in this fund, contributions come from different countries, including the European Union. So for this project in particular, we are financed by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action and the European Union. The project has already started in September 2020, but due to the COVID pandemic, some on-ground activities couldn't continue. So we have had a delayed start, but now we are almost full steam and implementation is going on. The concept of the project is that we have these 5 selected geographies, which we call as lighthouse geographies, and we are implementing initiatives in these geographies, which we will try and replicate in at least 10 more geographies over the course of the project, and also support national level and state level dissemination of the best practices and solutions that we pilot. The idea of the project is that we should be able to support 4,500 tons per day of municipal solid waste processing capacity. So this includes both wet waste and dry waste processing capacity, and it is a climate finance project. So the main purpose of the project is that when we landfill waste due to lack of processing capacity, methane emissions happen from the landfills. And if we are able to process that waste, those methane emissions will not happen, and the project will lead to climate change mitigation. Also, we are supporting recycling as a solution for dry fraction of waste, because any recycled product that we use, we avoid the use of virgin product. For example, if you use 1 ton of virgin plastic, it will cause 3 tons or 2.5 tons of CO2 emissions, but 1 ton of recycled plastic only emits around 1 ton of CO2 for production. The project has Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change as the nodal partner ministry, because it is a climate finance project. But we have in addition, we have the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs as the implementation partner ministry, because the urban issues, waste management related issues, all are under the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. So we also have the project working at 3 levels. It starts at the urban local body level, where we are providing grant and technical assistance to cities so that they can set up these low carbon waste management processing facilities. It includes material recovery facilities for dry waste, composting and biogas facility for wet waste, and RDF, which is refuse derived fuel, basically low value plastics and soiled paper and other dry waste items that cannot be recycled due to economic reasons or due to the level of contamination being too high. And also we support recycling through the project. As a means to achieve a successful operation of these processing facilities, we are implementing a very large source segregation and home composting awareness program in all the 5 geographies. And this we are implementing through partner NGOs. So we had TERI as one of the partner NGOs for Varanasi and Goa, and Sahas is our partner NGO for Trichy and Bangalore. Sahas is a Bangalore-based NGO working on waste management for many years. And then we also focus on informal sector integration, because a lot of waste is currently handled by the informal sector, the rag pickers. And when we set up formal waste management systems, then these rag pickers kind of, it's like a competition with them. So it is very important that you integrate the informal sector in your material recovery facilities, in your waste processing facilities, or in the collection systems, so that their livelihoods are not adversely impacted because of improvements in the formal waste management system. We also do a lot of capacity building of urban local body staff in these 5 geographies, so that they are able to implement the projects that are part of the project, as well as in general the processing capacities that are required. At the state and national level, we are contributing to development of national standards on biomethanation and recycling. How it helps is that as an urban local body official, if you are implementing one of these processing facilities, you need a reference document. How do I decide what to set up in an MRF, what kind of machinery to buy? And here the guidance from the ministry, central ministry, is very helpful. So we work with Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs in developing these guidelines and standards. We are also working with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs on this Swachhata Knowledge Partner concept. So it's basically a group of institutions that are, in our case, we have one Swachhata Knowledge Partner for each city. But it's also a state level concept that Mahua is implementing. So these are basically training programs that will be implemented by these institutions. They'll be doing studies, and they can be universities, colleges, or even NGOs that can apply for Swachhata Knowledge Partners. And then we have a technical support unit at Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs that provide the advisory services, guidelines and standards related work. As you might be aware that we have the extended producer responsibility framework in place now due to the plastic waste management rules. So for implementation of the EPR policy, CPCB has developed the portal, and there is a lot of activity going on. But at the state level, states are also coming up with their own state level policies for extended producer responsibility, because some financing can go from EPR revenue to the urban local body to the operators of the dry waste management facility. So that component also we are helping few states to develop. We have a risk sharing facility as part of the project, as a private sector entrepreneur in the waste management space, it is very hard to get loans from banks. And also, when the banks or NBFCs are willing to give loans, they ask for a very high rate of interest because of the perceived risk in the sector. So we have set up this risk guarantee facility, risk sharing facility, where we provide partial debt guarantee. 25% for companies that have more than 25 crores turnover, and 50% for companies that have less than 25 crores turnover. And that sort of helps in meeting the collateral requirement. Also, it can help in reducing the cost of debt for waste management companies. As I mentioned that we are looking at stakeholder engagement at various levels, and starting with the citizens. So we have these innovative initiatives at the city level. For instance, in Bangalore, we have set up a concept called Chila Mela, which is like a cloth bag made from old clothes. Because the SUP ban is in place, and we are trying to promote reduced uses of plastic bags, we have to provide alternatives in the form of reusable cloth bags. So that's Chila Mela. It's already going on for a year now in Bangalore and has been very successful. In around, I think, 6,000, 7,000 bags have been distributed through this measure. We have set up a shop with your waste campaign in Goa. There are 17 shops where you can go and exchange your waste for useful products. So at these shop with your waste campaign kiosks, you can basically sell even low value plastics at a particular price, and in exchange you can buy products. Then we are in Trichy, we are supporting this concept of Uzavar Sandhai, which is basically like plastic free vegetable markets, and you have all these reusable utensils and no bags, no plastic bags being used in these markets. Then we use these innovative concepts to create awareness about the importance of not using single-use plastic and avoiding littering and waste generation. So we had these boats designed in the form of plastic package items, just to show that the problem is bigger than we think. We think it's just a bottle that we are throwing, but it all adds up and become mountains of waste. Then we create a lot of awareness for children in schools and in public places, so that they are aware about SUP, the harmful impact of single-use plastic. And we have a very active online campaign which has reached out to 600,000 people, promoting home composting and promoting the habit of less littering, avoiding use of single-use plastics. So last slide, from the risk sharing facility, we have already started implementation of this risk sharing facility and have issued in principle loan guarantees to these 5 companies. So NEPRA is into material recovery facilities. It's operating in Gujarat, Indore, and a few other places. Carbon Masters is a company involved in biomethanation plant development. They are active in Bangalore. GPS Renewables is a small biogas manufacturing company. Now they're getting into larger plants. MSGP Infra, again, a biomethanation company, and Greentech Enviro is into composting. So all these companies have applied for partial loan guarantee through this facility. And I would encourage mayors and representatives from different cities here to encourage your private sector partners to access the partial debt guarantee facility from our project. And it is being operated by the Small Industries Development Bank of India. So it's a government partnership initiative, and it's very supportive in terms of providing the debt through SIDBI as well as loan guarantee from the risk sharing facility. With that, I'd like to close. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think here we've seen a kind of more complex project architecture. More complex, I want to mention one thing is like, some of you who may have known the EU in the past and who've been used to getting our support, you have had grants as a support, and more and more I think in India we see loans coming in or guarantees coming in, so it makes more complex, let's say, financing architecture, but at the same time, as our grants really decrease, these guarantees are hugely important, and this is what manages especially larger cities who have more complex problems because they have bigger problems, still manage.
Who will be speaking in the next session. Now I would like to hand over to our next speaker who is already at the podium.
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, let me express my thanks to the organizer for this opportunity. And I would also like to thank the European Union for supporting International Finance Corporation for undertaking various initiatives in the cities sector. Today, I would like to share, one of the cases that we have analyzed with respect to leveraging private sector in rejuvenating urban transport infrastructure. So with that, but before we get into that, I would like to briefly introduce IFC. I'll request the organizer to load my presentation. So while they load, I represent the International Finance Corporation, which is part of the World Bank Group. World Bank Group has got 5 different institutions. IFC is one of them. And IFC role is to promote private sector, both in terms of investments as well as in terms of advising, to promote private sector development. So, I would like to cover these 5 topics. So we'll briefly talk about IFC and then why do we need, what are the challenges cities are facing, why do we need private finance, and then what we have to serve cities, and then particularly about this case, how we can leverage private sector, and then some of our case studies. So as I mentioned, IFC is part of the World Bank Group. Our role is to promote private sector. That's primarily our role, as against IBRD, which gives loans to the government. Now, as you can see, cities face significant, challenges. I mean, we believe that by next, 30 years, about 70% of the global population would be living in urban areas. They are facing all sorts of problems, whether it is in terms of resilience, they are constantly getting shocks from pandemic, earthquake, flooding and all. So how we can, and then also they are facing all sorts of challenges in different sectors like, decongestion, water scarcity, wastewater treatment, recirculation, slums, housing and all. So if we have, if you see, there are 4 or 5 major, areas that the reason why, we need financing from private sector in the urban sector. As I have discussed, there is increasing share of urban population. We believe that the population of urban sector would increase to almost 600 million by 2035. Then the spend has been also traditionally low in the urban sector. I mean, one of estimates has indicated that it would require about $841 billion in next 15 years, which basically would mean almost 1.2% of GDP every year in the urban sector, whereas traditionally we have been spending only 0.5% or 0.6%. Then the other, I'm not going to get into all the details, but one of the reason, and then some of the poor service delivery that, conditions that you can see, almost 70 million passengers, they commute daily by buses, but as you know, we have very inadequate and poor, infrastructure in terms of urban bus transport system in many cities. Almost in one of the presentation we saw, almost 70% of the wastewater which is getting generated every year is not getting treated before getting discharged into the river. Then there is the issue of water stress in different cities. One of the reasons that we have seen that lot of urban local bodies, they are primarily dependent on government grant. There are only few urban local bodies who have tried to go for commercial borrowing. So, moment you go for, a government grant, then the tendency is to normally do government-supported projects, or, the desire to do more of private sector projects, declines. So, keeping, all these factors in view, we believe that PPP, public-private partnership, can act as one of the, instruments to unlock, private sector, both investment as well as their capability to solve some of the urban problems. I mean, within IFC, we have normally these three products, I mean, we have investments. So we invest in cities also, both directly in green loans, or we also help cities in raising money through green bonds. Plus, we provide advisory services, both PPP as well as non-PPP advisory services. So one of the urban sectors through the support of European Union we have analyzed is redevelopment of bus terminals. As I said in the previous slide, that almost 60 million passengers travel every day, but then we are facing issues with respect to inefficiently designed bus terminals or bus depot in many cities. They are not able to get adequate revenue so that they can invest in the renewal of their infrastructure. And then there are issues in terms of facilities for passengers. Plus, one of the areas that we have seen that these bus terminals or depots are located in prime locations within the city area, and they are not able to monetize some of them, and they, while they are losing some of the revenue potential from these areas. So we have analyzed, in 2-3 states like Kerala, Goa, and Maharashtra. And one of the case that I'm going to present today is with respect to Kerala, that how we can develop 6 of their bus terminals. Not develop, it's a redevelopment. So bus terminals are already working, but our objective is to redevelop them into climate smart, resilient bus terminals with adequate potential for non-operational revenue. Just like airport, we are trying to develop new airports with commercial revenue potential. This is on the same concept we are trying to develop bus terminals. So this is going to cover different aspects. One is that definitely in the same area, we are not proposing any new land acquisition. In the same area, suppose the bus terminal area is only 10 acre, and they are right now parking or handling, let's say, 100 buses or 200 buses. In the same area, through multi-level bus parking stations, we can always release 4 or 5 acres, for the commercial purpose, and the rest 5 acres can be utilized not only for 100, 200, but we can also increase the parking capacity with all modern features like electric bus charging stations, better facilities for crew as well as for passengers. And also to mention, gender sensitive facilities also at the terminals. So, I'll talk about the broad PPP structure that we have proposed. Typically, it's going to be a 25 to 30-year concession agreement between the state transport undertaking, or in case of city, it can be with the city also. Whereas the private sector will take the responsibility of developing the terminal and operating it, not the buses, but the passenger facilities, while at the same time on the commercial side, they can develop their own commercial facilities and they can give revenue. In many cases, if it is done on a cluster basis, so when I say cluster basis, that if it is a mix of 4 or 5 sites, in many cases, it will result in revenue for the government. So instead of grant, they would be sharing revenue or premium to the government. So in this case, as I have explained, these are the 4 different roles of private sector. They will be redesigning the bus terminals. They will finance and build it, and then they will also operate the passenger facilities. We have deliberately stayed away from operation of the buses or bus terminals, so that will be continue to be done by the public sector. But the passenger and the commercial part can be handled by private sector. So you can see in case of Kerala, we have analyzed that there is a potential of about $75 to $80 million of private investment. It will create jobs because it will create new space for commercial activities, plus providing better passenger amenities, and plus also, it provides access to better facilities to almost 150 million people. So, so this is just to share some of the findings that we have done in that project, but we can do in other states also. Before I conclude, these are some of the success stories that we have undertaken in India, but we have also done projects because I can see we have mayors from other countries in South Asia. So we have done urban projects in Bangladesh, Bhutan. Plus in India, we have done street lighting projects in different cities. We have done, so we have advised Government of India on Namami Gange project. So we have already advised on 3 PPP projects. We have done affordable housing in Odisha. We have done a hospital project in Bihar. We have done health diagnostic centers in Jharkhand, all the districts of Jharkhand. So we have handled many urban projects so far. So with that, I would like to end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pankaj. So I think we have seen another facet of the partnership that we're having with India. And I think throughout all this presentation, we had a nice journey through India, from Leh to Ranchi to Bhubaneswar, Kochi, Chennai, Bangalore. So quite a diverse field here. I mean, so we've seen a kind of thread also in most of the presentation relating to water being addressed from many different angles, but is always a key issue. And indeed, the last presentation with the bus terminal redevelopment is a different kind of project, also quite complex, PPP. But I can only thank you very much. I don't think we really want to ask too many questions. We would love to, but we are already half an hour behind schedule. We have the minister here, so I think we should give justice to the next panel. So I think we need to move on. But again, thanks a lot. I hope you appreciate the support that we provide, let's say, as the EU, or whether it's GIZ, it's the AFD, it's cities, different cities in Europe. For us, it's a way to, I think it's really a partnership work with you. We are learning as much as hopefully you are learning as well. We hope we are relevant to all of you. We hope our support is relevant to you. That's what matters to us, that it is, after all, it's taxpayers' money, so we don't want to waste it. We want it to be well invested for your citizens, in your cities, in your country. And we try with my colleague Shuvik and other colleagues, Smita, who is not here today, we try to, as much as we can, go to the field, go to the different places to see exactly what's happening. And I think that's enriching, and that also keeps our motivation going, because we see the problems are big, and the bigger the cities, the bigger the problems. Okay, thank you very much again on behalf of the European Union.
Thank you so much to our session chair and all the speakers. With this, we come to an end to the session 2. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for the felicitation. Well, I would like to request Paschim Tiwari, Technical Director, to please felicitate Mr. Lauren D. Danois. Let's put our hands together, everybody. Also, let's have Mr. Harish Sharma, Project Director, to felicitate Dr. Anshuman. With a huge round of applause. Mr. Nimish Jain, Project Officer, to felicitate Mr. Ishi Namgyal. Minakshi, to please come forward and felicitate Mr. Jay Kumar Gaurav. Aditi Gupta, Project Manager, again to felicitate Mr. Pankaj Sinha. Let's have Mr. Ravi Kumar to felicitate Mr. Shashi Ranjan, IAS. And I'll request all our speakers and the session chair to please join for the group picture.